I wanted to share a recent um, I guess I guess I guess you would call it lesson. There's so many things that we learn through the things that happen in this life, the situations and circumstances that we get put through, right? That we are put through. And as I've come to this place of knowing that everything is for my good, including the things that I used to perceive as bad or wrong or evil, um, there really is this place, even, suffering. It is all that we would come into the knowledge of the truth, that we would, this awakening process that I've been going through has come with deep, deep healing. Years back when I started walking with the Lord, it's about 10 years now, I had definitely gone through many things in the renewing of the mind and submitting the flesh, resisting the flesh. But the healing and the process specifically where this awakening began was about 3.5 years ago. And that's really when the Lord surfaced these traumas and these things that I had gone through, even at a young age, one at a time, season through season, sometimes multiple things at one time. I would say the last 2 years, I have been put through what I call a crushing to where, just like the olives are crushed and the rich oil is secreted, is brought forth. That's exactly what I felt was happening to me. Or as gold or the precious metals are refined, they are heated to the state where the impurities are burnt off and only the pure metal remains, the precious metal remains. This is the first time where I have had multiple things happen, because for somebody who used to cope with drugs and with outside sources, things that would make me feel better, that I wouldn't have to deal or face the shame and the guilt that I felt as a person and as a mother and as a daughter that went what we perceive this wrong way direction, all of it was for my good. All of it is part of this experience that I have chosen. And recently, probably within the last 6 months to a year, right about around the time where the promise of my husband was revealed, and in the midst of this blessing, this time of feasting, this time of receiving, and I was seeing the favor of God in every area of my life, all of a sudden my body began to bring forth this I wouldn't even call it a sickness now that I understand the situation. But through all of this crushing and this pressing, what surfaced was the way that I began to stress. I don't stress on the outside. I internalize everything, my worries, my anxieties. And so this was something that needed to surface, that I would face how to walk through this, how to heal from this. Because really, worry and stress, anxiety, these things are low. And what they do to the body is, the Lord revealed the stress that I was internalizing and not facing. It was causing my body to experience forms of sickness. My hormones began to be all out of whack. My hair started to fall out in clumps for months. My body was so fatigued. I felt like someone who was just exhausted, like at least in my far years in life, you know. And I don't even like to say that because there's so many people who are older in age, yet they are full of youth. But I felt like somebody who was done. My body had no energy. I had never experienced these things. I had always, by the grace of God, been healthy. I had always had this supernatural energy. But what happened was it was time for me to face something that I hadn't realized was happening. Every time that something would come, I would hold it in. Worry, anxiety, all of these things, especially, a lot of times the unknown is scary, not knowing what's going to happen. So in the midst of me having all of this favor and blessing and promises being fulfilled at one time, at the same time, I had this sickness that was surfacing because of stress. And so one of the many things that the Lord began to show me through this was I can either allow this sickness to rob me of all of the blessings that are around me as I'm trying to figure this out, because everything is for a purpose. Everything that is brought has been ordained to your life. Everything that you are confronted with, no matter what it is, it could be sickness, it could be the death of a loved one, it could be whatever. We perceive things incorrectly because the way that we have been brought up, the belief systems that we have been brought up in. Death is not something that we fear. It's only something that we fear when we do not know, when we do not understand. Sickness, this sickness was used that these lessons could be brought forth and that I would heal, that I could get past this, that I could grow, and that I could share. There are many people with complete faith that God can heal them. And what God revealed to me through this testimony, through this process, was that there are so many people that are sick because of stress, worry, and anxiety. Especially right now, in the times that we're in. Many of us do not know what's going to happen. Specifically in our life, I hope that you do know, because God gives us instructions. The fullness of God is constantly with us. The consciousness of God, the full aspect of God, Father, Mother, and Son, are constantly with us. And what they are doing is they are aspects of consciousness, full consciousness. Okay, this source, this energy that we come from. It is the essence of our being. And so what Father, Mother, and Jesus do is they are the way, they help us to come into this awareness of who we are in this place down here through this experience on earth. So one of the things that God is saying is that many people have faith in what we are told through church, and even some of our understandings through scripture, is that we believe that we lack faith, or there's something that we are lacking in regards to our faith when we're not being healed. But what's happening is that many of us are causing these sicknesses. And so God can use it to bring deep healing forth. So if you are someone who is carrying a sickness right now and you are under stress, even if you don't externalize it, you may internalize it like I do. So I didn't even think that I was a stressful person. I didn't realize how much I was internalizing, how much I was carrying, until it started to affect my body. And so this place, as I was in the unknown, not understanding some moments why this was happening, I had complete faith in God. I had seen the supernatural of God throughout all of my life, throughout at least the life where, and even before, obviously, in my craziness. As I came in to know the Lord, I even saw his grace and his supernatural hand upon my life even then. But many of us have seen miraculous healing. Many of us have been used in miraculous healing for others. So all of a sudden, here we are 8, 9 years down the line, and all of a sudden something is affecting my body, but yet my faith has always been that there is no sickness. By his stripes we are healed. And as we become aware of the truth, there is no sickness in the true essence of who we are. It is just a matter of our beliefs. So if we fear sickness, this is the energy. This is what we bind ourselves to, our beliefs. So if you fear something, you are tying that to you. You believe you are sick, you will be sick. It is the power, the thoughts. We conceive things with our thoughts. If in the power of the tongue, we have the power to give life or death. And the word says that we should learn to even take our thoughts captive. It is because our thoughts can conceive what comes forth from the mouth, because our thinking is what's coming from the heart. So if our belief system is wrong, even you could even be somebody who says, okay, well, maybe this is my thorn in the flesh. You are believing that is your portion. And so that will very well be your portion. But there is greater. There is greater than this. There is freedom. There is no sickness in the essence, the true essence of who you are, the energy that you are. This body is just the shell. So as the Lord began to reveal this, it was so scary. I would be losing clumps of hair continually throughout the day. This was a process that I probably should have video recorded as I was going through it, because it was really a season of difficulty for me. Because it was so, now that I'm out of it, it was so deep and so special that I think it would have been significant for me to show the part of fear where I'm pulling chunks of hair out, where I didn't have the energy. There were moments where I thought I was going to pass out because of the fatigue, because of what the stress was doing to my body. And so the Lord led me to natural remedies, and all of those, they did well. They were good. Natural things, the herbs and the things that this earth creates, they are beautiful. They bring life, they bring healing. And so I began to treat my body with that, right? And it was good, but it wasn't bringing healing. There was something deeper that I needed to realize. And so as I began to walk through this, one main thing was that I will not allow this to rob me of the blessings that I have every day. My husband had been brought to me supernaturally. We had been married within months. Our union was completely supernatural. A promise that I had been waiting on for years had finally came. And I could either be in the midst and allow this sickness to rob all of these blessings that I was having in my life, or I can ignore and allow time to explain what was happening. Allow when we surrender to something. I surrendered to that part of this season of my life, and I surrendered and I chose. So I surrendered and I chose not to allow this to dictate the peace and the joy. And it was a process. I learned through this process. There were days where I cried to my husband. I didn't understand what was happening. And this is not a usual place, you know. God was the only answer and direction God gave me was do not fear. That was the only, this is probably the first time where he was that simplified. Yet every time that I began to let this fester, I would remember, do not fear. If my God said, do not fear, I must not fear. Fear must be something that is holding this here. So this was a process, and it was beautiful, and it began to unveil itself. And so one thing is, if you're dealing with a sickness, I understand. I understand how scary it could be. I understand how stressful and anxious you can feel. But there is a purpose. So we can remain in those emotions, or we can surrender and allow the answers to come through your surrender. Because when we fight and we remain in fear, we remain in this low level. As you begin this awakening process, the whole purpose of this is that you would transcend the boundaries, the limits of this realm here on earth. So that was one thing. Not allow the sickness to rob me of everything that God had brought in this point in my life. And another thing was the natural herbs. So I began to treat the body with the natural herbs, things that I had never really tried before, because I actually was kind of battling, like, is this a lack of faith? I believe that you alone can heal me, God. Isn't this lacking faith where I have to seek out another way? And so it was also a humbling point. It was so much growth in this portion of this lesson. It was so beautiful. And ultimately, it led me to this. I was treating the symptoms. I wasn't treating the root of the problem. And the root that had surfaced was stress. The stress was causing this sickness. The stress was causing my hormone levels to be out of whack, causing other issues in my body with my thyroid and fatigue and the loss of hair. Stress is I believe it's the number one cause, and stress actually exceeds alcohol and drugs in pregnancies. I remember this when I was pregnant years back. This is the effects that stress, worry, anxiety have on the body. And so many of us, it's not that you don't have faith. God wants you to know that there is something that is surfaced that you need to be healed from. And so many of us today carry and internalize these things as it's just an automatic response. And so as we are being awakened, we are finding that this true source of peace, joy, all of these things are within us. And so we can't access these things if we are blocked by, shackled by fear, worry, and anxiety. Not only that, not only can we not access them in a continual flow, but we are also causing harm to our bodies that was not intended for anything. We are not creatures of sickness. Our natural bodies actually heal themselves. They have properties and they have ways to heal itself. So these things like fear and stress, they keep us shackled. And so when I finally realized, by the grace of God, as He began portion by portion to reveal these answers, I realized that stress was the root, and I had to pull the root out. And when I pulled the root out, and I'm still in this, I'm at the end of this, I'm focusing now on the stress and allowing things to just be deflected. The first time that Jesus ever told me it's not that serious, I was actually offended, because we go through these things and we go through things in life that are what we perceive to be serious things. How could you possibly say that, Lord? How could you say what I'm going through is not that serious? And when I realized what He was saying, I was able to recognize that the things that I'm going through and the things that I will go through and the things that many people are going through right now, it is all for our good. That's what He means. What we're going through, it's not that we would remain sad and in fear and scared and worried. It's that we would surpass this and grow Every experience and every situation that you are facing is for you to grow, that you would continue to transcend, that you would continue to rise in the level of truth, the levels of truth. Stress is very, very nasty. It is a nasty thing and just crazy stuff to our bodies. Stress is the cause of many things out there, many cancers, many diseases, many things that are happening to your body right now. Ask yourself if the root, the Lord gives clarity, all in perfect time. I went through this process and He took me through the herbs. He took me through all of that. It was all a beautiful part of this. But the ending was I had to face the reality of the stress. And I had to choose not to allow myself to be driven by this stress, by these emotions. And so that's what we exercise. I realize my enemy right now is stress. I realize the root of this problem, and I'm pulling it up from the ground. I am not allowing myself to be offended. And it takes time. We grow, right? We will fall. We will make mistakes. There will be times where somebody gets the better of us, especially when you're in this position of where you're hard pressed. You're pressed on every side. This is why He intended it now at this very moment of my life, where I had things coming from every different angle. We are creatures without limits. Our very essence is the things that we desire: peace, joy, love. This is our portion. It is our portion. We just have to be awakened. We just have to become aware to the truth of how powerful we truly are, that the outside will no longer affect how we walk, how we move in this earth, but rather we can continually flourish, release our fragrance, that others would be drawn in. God bless you guys.